It's important to reflect on the remarkable history of women and philanthropy. Throughout history, women have been at the forefront of charitable giving, even when they lacked financial independence. Back in the 19th century, women-led giving circles emerged as a powerful force where women pooled resources to support causes close to their hearts. Today, this spirit of collective giving is alive and well in organizations like the Women's Foundation of Collier County. The foundation carries on this legacy by supporting initiatives that empower women and girls across our community. Hello everyone, I am Krista Fogelsong. I was so honored to be a part of today's event. We're going to get to know our 2024 Women of Initiative Honorees, women who are not only inspiring but actively changing the lives of others. So as we begin this discussion, the percentage of women over 25 in Collier County who have a college degree is 10% lower than in the rest of Florida. Many of these women need scholarships to get secondary education. So to me, this really highlights the gap in access to higher education for women, especially here in our community. What are your thoughts on this, and what does this tell you about the importance of the Women's Foundation work in empowering young women and girls through mentoring and scholarships? I'm going to begin with you, Kat.
I think that what the Women's Foundation is doing in terms of empowering these young women with mentoring and scholarships is just absolutely invaluable. There's not enough funding. So I was chair of the board of trust at Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Georgia. So I came up with this idea of the X Prize. And the X Prize is basically like a scholarship to help these kids. So we set this X Prize up, and it's $25,000 that you have to put cash on the table, but you get to put your name on it.
I just concluded my chairmanship at the University of Mississippi Board of Directors, and that was definitely a forefront of ours, and focusing on scholarship and those in need, and the grants and the scholarships that we can provide to these students. One thing that we have done at the Ole Miss Women's Council is we have done that. We've named them, and they can be restricted. We love unrestricted because then we can offer them to any student, but it's that naming opportunity, and these scholarships are endowed and they'll go into perpetuity forever. And that's a great thought for what we could do here in Collier County, are these endowed type scholarships.
Okay, I think the Women's Foundation should let a lot of people know about this. I personally did not know about this before, and I think there's a lot of groups and organizations, obviously there are, and maybe we could ask each one of them, could you do a scholarship? And then maybe we could do events or something that are fun. And so
like fun?
people, when they show up, they have a good time, and then they meet some new people and get the job done. That's what I think.
All right, Anne, let's go to you.
Okay, I was probably out of college before I realized how hard it was for so many women and girls to get an education, and I took it for granted. And since I kind of had that epiphany, I have spent a lot of years trying to help other women and girls, and that to me is just the most rewarding thing, to be able to raise the money and find the charities that really need it. And unfortunately, the need is much greater than the funds that are available. I really just am so thrilled with the work that the Women's Foundation does, but there's a lot more work to be done.
I went to University of Central Florida for my undergrad and was on the pre-med track. So in order to be on that track, I had to have a full class load. So to have a full class load and to pay for it at the same time was challenging. So I worked 2 jobs and took on a full load of classes at the same time. So scholarships today to empower young women are so important.
The foundation carries on this legacy by supporting initiatives that empower women and girls across our community. Through efforts like the Women Lifting Women Initiative, housing and support services for senior women, scholarships, and mentoring programs, the foundation is making a lasting impact for women of all ages. In 2020, more than 70 senior women in Collier County were living in their cars. Today, more than 200 senior women without permanent housing in Collier County have reached out for help from the Southwest Florida Regional Coalition to End Homelessness. So how does this highlight the importance of continuing the Women Lifting Women initiative? What more can we do to support these women?
I find it just unfathomable to imagine a woman living in her car, especially a senior woman. We take so much for granted, and we're so lucky. And so to me, I just have to kind of get in that space of saying, of just being really compassionate and empathetic, and trying to imagine what life must be like that. And then it makes me want to give.
Okay, I always look to faith-based groups to help out with anything and everything, and I think that we should expand to them. Maybe they have groups that can help, and maybe they could like adopt in a way one of these ladies and help her, and some other group would help a different lady, and then counselors would have to help them, guide them. That's what I think.
Okay, Angela?
Our nonprofit works with a lot of the homeless in the community, the senior women in the community, and it was just heartbreaking to hear the statistics, especially we think of Collier County as a wealthier area, of course.
I think that part of the problem that we have is we just don't have enough affordable housing in this community. And I know that there are a lot of efforts to get it done, but we've been talking about this for a long, long time. But I think that Women Lifting Women is such an amazing program, and the endowment of $5 million is a beautiful thing. We're making progress in getting there, but we have a long ways to go.
It's very important that we come together as a community, and being very involved here at the shelter at Naples, there's an opportunity to come together and provide housing like we do at the shelter for these women and children at risk. And once again, mentoring is very important, and that advocacy for these women who are seniors. You have to create consistency in this mentoring, and mentoring them, working with professionals who can provide them counseling would be very important. We also have tenacity, and we can do this. And I think, and create maybe some tax credits for people who provide this type of housing might be very beneficial. So.
We're so fortunate to have women like all of you on this panel. So can each of you share how your own philanthropy has supported women and girls in Collier County and how you've made an impact? Let's start with you this time, Mary Susan.
I had some furniture to give away, and I called the only charity at the time that had a truck that would come pick the furniture up. And out of the truck came a young boy, about 16 years old, and his face was black and blue. And I said, what happened to him? And it was a very pivotal moment. He said that happened at the hands of his father, but he's living now at Love's, and he said, and his mother is living at the shelter. 2 different locations. And for me, then getting involved with the Naples Children Education Foundation and seeing all the children that were at risk, it was just mind-boggling how many children were at risk in this community and how many mothers were at risk in this community. But what really turned the curve for me, that we were talking about, starting the Naples Children Education Foundation, you've got to find purpose in your life. And when I saw that our shelter, I was on the National Domestic Violence Hotline Board, and the Naples shelter was the only shelter at the time that would take entire families in and would not divide the children. And that young boy, if the shelter had that opportunity back then, he would have been there with his mother versus living separate from his mother. And so we were a prototype in the nation. We do not take families apart.
So I too was on the shelter board of trustees, and the thing that I felt was probably my major contribution to my shelter work was taking care of the pets. I have a love of animals, in addition to making sure that little girls especially don't have to give up their kitten because their dad is threatening to hurt it in some way or kill it. And this happens all the time. And so my little dog was the spokes dog for this effort. But Miss Kirby and I raised the dollars, and she actually endowed the doggy kennel at the shelter in Immokalee, and then we raised funds for the kitty kennel as well, because we didn't want to discriminate against our dogs and cats. Right now, I am focused on the Harry Chapin Food Bank and fighting hunger. And we have such big problems in this community. So there are 20,000 kids in the community. We also help senior women in particular, 160,000 women a year. actually take advantage of our services. So right now, what I am focusing on is helping raise money for a $30 million capital campaign. And I know that this community will make it happen.
We went to everyone you could name in town, and we ended with Naples Children Education Foundation because we could affect 60 charities all at once. And then Naples Botanical Garden because I was honored to be invited to be on the Sustaining Leadership Council and help out the garden.
Angela, how about you?
My mom and I started a nonprofit called Project Outreach about 16 years ago. I started the Masters of Medical program to practice medicine in the emergency room here in Collier County. And I would go to the ER and I would see these just situations that would absolutely crush me and break my heart. Seeing the child that was abused and stuff like that. You know, you always ask them, okay, is this your parent, who you with, and is it a guardian, is it a foster parent? And a lot of times it would just be a care worker taking care of them because there was no home to place them in. And they're sleeping on the floor of the office because there's just not enough homes to take them in. And so that's where it really became just a strong pull for me. So I actually just started off real small. We got my family together and we started just getting the community more involved, our church more involved. Our church kind of took us under as an umbrella under their organization. And then we just kind of grew from there. And now 16 years later, we've been working with probably hundreds of different organizations throughout Collier County and serving foster kids, youth at risk, homeless.
My two services that I do are right now with Greater Naples Leadership and with Star Ability Foundation. And I know we're fellow members of GNL, but many GNLers have learned about how to serve Collier County through the organization because it's a volunteer organization. It's an organization that promotes doing local service. So that was a big inspiration for me, and I've since served on a lot of committees with a lot of organizations to raise money and to plan events. Right now I'm having a ball because I'm working on a new project for Star Ability to open a new store for them.
I just thank you all for sharing your wonderful stories and what you've done for our community in Collier County. And it's clear that through initiatives like Women Lifting Women, we can continue to support senior women, of course, and of course, empower the next generation of women. So thank you for joining me here and letting the audience know more about what you've done in our community. And with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.